Double chalupa. Hello Mayans, and welcome back to my channel. If you're part of that 70% who are watching but have not subscribed yet, please consider joining the Mayan Empire and hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that little bell down below, because then you'll be notified when I upload new content, as well as be able to see my comments and polls on my community tab of my YouTube page. In fact, one of the recent polls was about my fandom name, and I thought that Mayans would be a pretty cool thing. Because I am Latina, my middle name is Maya. Y yo soy media puertorriqueña y media colombiana, y mi hijo es mexicano. And I thought it'd be great to honor my Latina heritage by including that somehow in my fandom name. Now this week is also Transgender Awareness Week, which leads up to Transgender Day of Remembrance, and then just a couple days later we have Thanksgiving, so it's a pretty big week overall. And there's also been a lot of transgender topics in the news, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit. Starting with Transgender Awareness Week, and how I'm not really a big fan of it anymore at this point. I think it has served a purpose, but I think it also takes the focus away of what we should be doing right now. I remember a time not too long ago, around 2011, 2012, when we were trying to get transgender people to march in our LGBT pride here in Orlando. And we couldn't do it. We couldn't get anybody to step out of the shadows and march. Flash forward to 2018, and now we have all kinds of transgender people and organizations marching in the parade. Not to mention that I'm always surprised by the increasing number of transgender kids wearing their transgender flags who are watching the parade. It makes my heart sing. I mean, it just feels so good to see all these people out there. And I'm not saying that Orlando is necessarily indicative of the rest of the country, or the rest of the world for that matter. What I'm trying to say is that the public is aware of us. They know we exist. But because they know we exist, it has brought a tremendous backlash, and we've seen that a lot recently. We've actually seen our political enemies emboldened against us. Here in the States, we've seen bathroom bills, we've seen gender identity protections overturned in Houston, and in this past election cycle in November, we saw efforts to overturn gender identity protections in Massachusetts. Health and Human Services here in the States is talking about including language that would essentially erase transgender people. At least erase us on paper. Obviously, we're not going to be erased in real life. We are never going away. We're always going to be here. But they're talking about creating guidance should essentially codify a middle school level understanding of sex and gender. Not to mention the recent Victoria's Secret brouhaha, where their chief marketing officer basically said that transsexuals, as he put it, wouldn't be welcome on the Victoria's Secret fashion show runway, because I guess we don't fit the Victoria's Secret fantasy. So yeah, I think we're pretty well entrenched in the zeitgeist right now. People are aware of who we are. The problem is they don't really understand us. They see our bodies. They refuse to see our beauty and our value as part of the human experience. In their world, we really only have validity insofar as we are able to look like cisgender people. They're okay with us as long as we're able to blend and not make them feel uncomfortable. I'm really tired that the biggest compliment I can be given as a trans woman is that I don't look like a trans woman. And most tiresome of all is that when people tell me that, I'm supposed to smile and thank them. But what does that mean? And is that a good thing? Is that something that I should aspire to? And if so, why? I know for myself, I don't want to be invisible as a trans woman. I think my experiences are unique, and I have something to add to the general world of women by those experiences. Sure, in the short term, it does make my life easier, and it does make me safer personally. But in the long term, I do think it fractures the transgender community between the haves and the have-nots, at least as judged by cisgender standards. And by disappearing into the cisgender community, it does make me feel some sort of guilt for abandoning some members of the transgender community to bear the brunt of the discrimination. Because they're the ones who are harassed on a daily basis. They're the ones who are thrown in jail just for being who they are. They're the ones who are also murdered. Now, of course, safety is an issue, and I'm not telling every transgender person to come out. And if you're transgender, only you individually can choose if that's right for you. But I do believe there's a significant amount of us who could come out who just don't. And I myself am not comfortable with that, so I've chosen the path of radical visibility. And I'm talking about like way before I started my YouTube channel. I'm kind of very obvious now, because if you Google my name, you're gonna see transgender everywhere. In every workplace I've ever worked in, I have come out as a transgender woman. Every single one. From little companies to big national ones. I remember once at one of these new employee orientation kinds of things, they asked us to play 2 truths and a lie. And my lie was that I'd been born a woman. But by coming out and being visible, it was the only way I could leverage my privileges into education. In a sense, I chose to become an ally within my own community, because I didn't have to. And by doing that, I hope I brought greater understanding to those people who had never seen a transgender person like me. It looks like me and it looks like you, and it is incredibly diverse, and it is all beautiful, and it should all be valued equally. So I get out there and I stand in front and I take some of the hate, because believe me, I get a lot of hate comments. And I do that to make things just a little bit easier for the next generation. I want to become obsolete, because as somebody who transitioned at 40, I don't think anybody should have to wait that long. I want trans kids to look at me and realize they can be happy right now. They don't have to wait as long as I did, because if I can make it, they can make it. I was in a recent video that my friend Stephanie Frosch made with a much younger transitioner called Nikki Vratzos, and she transitioned in high school, and all I could think to myself was like, wow, I feel like such a schlub next to her. But I grew up in a different time where I didn't have the same access to resources that she did to tell me who I was and how I could be what I wanted to be. Which is great because she's not gonna have to deal with the misplaced guilt that I have. She's not gonna have to deal with all the collateral damage which comes along with transitioning at 40. She's not gonna have to reboot her life and basically go through adolescence and middle age. In an understanding and supportive world, that is not something I should have had to do. And we need to have people look at older transitioners like us and realize that inside all of us is a trans kid that never got to be. I was once a trans kid who never got to transition, and so what happens is that it never goes away. And no matter how much society would like to believe that it will just disappear over time, that it's just a phase for these kids, really all they're doing is creating more older transitioners like me. And I don't want that pain for anybody. I don't want that pain for the next generation. I want them to have happy childhoods with love and acceptance. I don't want them to have to avoid mirrors like I did because they hate what they see reflected back. I want them to worry about ordinary things like getting into college. I want them to fall in love and not worry if the object of their affection could ever accept them for who they are, because that's something I worried about when I was a teenager, and it's something I worry about to this day. I want to see a future with carefree trans adults who are just worried about getting on about their lives and not worried about getting murdered for being their authentic selves. And yeah, I guess that's pie in the sky idealism, but one day I believe that it can happen. So I try to add another little drop to that bucket to get us a little closer to that goal. And towards that end, I make my little videos, and I also come out as trans on stages and little dive bars. And I speak to whoever will listen to my story in the hopes it'll make the world a little less hostile, a little more understanding, and just a little kinder. And to those of you who can, I hope you'll do the same thing on this Transgender Awareness Week. Don't just make them aware of what you are, let them know who you are, because I firmly believe if you let them see your hopes and your dreams, your essential humanity, that's what will change their hearts and minds. I hope after we get through the collective trauma, which is Transgender Day of Remembrance, you can look forward to Thanksgiving and being thankful for being your authentic self. And I hope you can spend it with loved ones, because it's looking more and more likely that I'm going to be spending it alone, but those are the consequences of my collateral damage in my life. And I want to hear what you think about disappearing into this cisgender world, what us transgender people call going stealth. Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing? Is it something you've done yourself? I want to hear about it. And as always, the links to all my social media is down below, including my Instagram where I put a lot of content, as well as my Twitter. And if you can spare a dime, please consider giving to my Patreon. That link is down below too. And on that note, please like, share, and consider subscribing to the Mayan Empire. And see you around interwebs.